Let's talk tariffs. Those hidden taxes that quietly shape what you pay at the store, often without you even realizing it. They're the reason your favorite imported cheese, that creamy French brie or sharp Italian Parmesan, suddenly costs a small fortune. Tariffs are taxes slapped on goods coming into the country. Think of them as a kind of cover charge for foreign products trying to get in. The government uses these taxes to make imports more expensive, hoping you'll reach for American-made products instead, keeping money and jobs at home. But here's the twist. Foreign companies don't just eat the cost, they pass it along, from the factory to the distributor to the store, and finally, it lands squarely in your wallet. That means your washing machine, your soda can, even your smartphone, can all get pricier thanks to tariffs, not just your cheese. It's a hidden tax, quietly draining your bank account every time you shop, even if you don't notice it at first. The goal is to protect American jobs and industries, but the first hit is almost always to the consumer's pocket. Supporting domestic industry starts to feel a lot like paying extra for the same stuff you used to get for less. The logic? Make imports expensive, and local products look like the better deal, even if they haven't changed. But in reality, it's a messy policy with messy results. Prices rise, and the market gets more complicated for everyone. Prices go up, choices go down, and you're left wondering why your grocery bill keeps climbing even when you're buying the same things. Tariffs aren't just about economics, they're about power, politics, and deciding who really pays the price in the end. So next time you see a price hike, remember, it might just be international trade policy at work behind the scenes, not just inflation or supply issues. Tariffs are supposed to help American industry, but more often than not, they just make life more expensive for everyone else, squeezing family budgets. It's a classic case of good intentions, complicated outcomes, and unintended consequences that ripple through the economy. And it's only the beginning of the story because in the world of global trade, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Tariffs aren't new, they're as old as the country itself. From the earliest days of the United States, tariffs have played a central role in shaping the nation's economy and its place in the world. Long before the federal government collected income tax, tariffs were the main way the U.S. paid its bills, funding everything from infrastructure to the military. The Founding Fathers fiercely debated tariffs, with Alexander Hamilton championing them as a way to protect fledgling American industries from powerful British competition and to help the new nation stand on its own feet. Tariffs became both a crucial moneymaker for the government and a protective shield for young American factories, fueling the country's early industrial growth. This protectionism would resurface again and again throughout American history, sometimes with positive effects, but often with disastrous results that rippled through the economy. The infamous Smoot-Hawley Tariff of 1930, for example, raised tariffs sky high in an attempt to protect American jobs, but instead triggered global retaliation, shrinking international trade, and deepening the Great Depression. After World War II, the U.S. led a dramatic shift toward free trade, believing that open markets would boost prosperity, create jobs, and help prevent future wars by tying nations together economically. Organizations like the World Trade Organization were created to keep trade flowing smoothly, resolve disputes, and encourage cooperation between countries. For decades, tariffs seemed like a relic of the past. As global trade expanded and economies became more interconnected than ever before. But in the 21st century, tariffs made a dramatic comeback, sparking new trade wars and proving that old economic ideas never really die. They just wait for their moment to return. The debate over protectionism versus free trade is as alive and heated as ever, with politicians and economists arguing over what's best for American workers and the nation's future. Tariffs have always been about more than just money. They're about national strategy, global influence, and the balance of power between countries. Every time tariffs return to the spotlight, they reshape not only the economy but also the lives of workers, businesses, and families across the country and around the world. The lesson? Tariffs are never just about economics. They're about who gets protected, who gets left behind, and ultimately, who pays the price for these high-stakes decisions. And if history teaches us anything, it's that when it comes to tariffs, the stakes are always high, and the consequences can echo for generations. The Trump administration saw free trade as a bad deal for America, especially with China. Their answer? Tariffs, lots of them, on steel, aluminum, and hundreds of billions in Chinese goods. They used old laws like Section 232, claiming national security, and Section 301, targeting unfair trade practices. This was a big shift, The president, not Congress, was calling the shots on trade. Supporters cheered the tough stance. Critics warned of overreach and higher costs for everyone. The result? Trade wars, rising prices, and a legal showdown over just how much power the president really has. Businesses hit by tariffs took their fight to the courts, setting up a battle over the limits of executive authority. The stage was set for a Supreme Court decision that could change trade policy forever. Legal challenges to the tariffs wound through the courts, with businesses arguing the president had abused his power. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, focusing not on whether tariffs were good policy, but whether the president had the authority to impose them as he did. In a decisive 7-2 ruling, the court said the president had overstepped. National security couldn't be used as a catch-all excuse for tariffs on allies. The decision reined in executive power, putting Congress back in charge of trade. The court made it clear, regulating foreign commerce is Congress's job, not the president's. Tariffs didn't disappear, but the days of one-person trade wars were over. The balance of power had shifted and the rules of the game had changed. The Supreme Court's ruling was all about the Constitution, specifically Congress's power to regulate trade. For years, Congress let presidents handle trade for speed and flexibility. But the court said enough. Congress can't just hand over its core powers. The non-delegation doctrine means only Congress can make the big calls on trade. Now, if a president wants broad tariffs, they'll need Congress to pass a law. That means more debate, more compromise, and a lot less executive action. Trade policy will be slower but more democratic and maybe more stable. Congress now has to step up and take responsibility for America's trade future. Sweeping changes will be harder, but knee-jerk trade wars are off the table. The power struggle between Congress and the president is back where it belongs, in the open, for everyone to see. The next chapter in trade policy will be written by lawmakers, not just one person in the White House. The Supreme Court's decision brought relief to businesses and consumers. With tariffs on shaky legal ground, prices for everything from cars to appliances could drop. U.S. allies welcomed the move, seeing it as a return to predictable, rules-based trade. The ruling cooled global trade tensions and opened the door to rolling back retaliatory tariffs. But not everyone cheered. Industries once protected by tariffs now face tougher competition. The decision traded targeted protection for lower costs and broader economic stability. It also forced a rethink of America's trade strategy. No more quick tariff fixes. The U.S. may lose some leverage but gains trust and stability in global markets. The effects will ripple for years, shaping everything from manufacturing to diplomacy. America's economic playbook just got a major rewrite. With Congress back in charge, U.S. trade policy is more uncertain, but also more democratic. The era of tariff by tweet is over. Now, big changes need real debate and consensus. Future trade deals will have to survive Congress's slow, messy process. Expect more moderate, coalition-driven policies and a renewed role for the WTO. The U.S. will likely work with allies, not just go it alone. Trade tools will get more targeted. Think rules on labor, environment, and intellectual property, not just blanket tariffs. The focus shifts from walls to rules, from confrontation to cooperation. The big debates, globalization versus protectionism, aren't over, but the process is now in the public eye. Lawmakers must balance worker protection, consumer benefit, and global stability. The future of trade will be shaped by Congress and by all of us. The tariff saga brings us back to the age-old debate. Should we build walls to protect ourselves or bridges to connect with the world? This question has shaped economies and societies for generations. Protectionists want to shield American jobs with tariffs, hoping to keep industries strong at home. On the other hand, free traders argue that open markets mean more choices, lower prices, and innovation driven by global competition. Both sides have a point. Globalization can hurt some communities, leading to lost jobs and struggling towns, but protectionism can backfire and raise costs for everyone, making everyday goods more expensive. The Supreme Court didn't pick a side in this debate, it simply clarified that these big choices belong to Congress, not the president alone, reinforcing the checks and balances in our system. The real answer lies in finding balance, protecting workers and communities without stifling growth, innovation, or opportunity for future generations. Now, trade policy will be shaped by public debate, not just executive orders. Citizens, experts, and lawmakers will all have a say. The process is often messy and loud, but that's democracy in action. Everyone's voice matters, even when opinions clash. The power to decide America's economic future is back where it belongs, with the people and their representatives working together to shape our path. The tariff showdown didn't end the debate, it just changed the rules and set the stage for a new chapter in America's economic story. The next chapter is up to Congress, and to all of us, as we engage, vote, and make our voices heard. Building walls or bridges? That's a choice we'll keep making together, as a nation striving for both security and connection. And that's the real story behind your expensive cheese. Every price tag tells a tale of policy, debate, and the choices we make as a country.